Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lalantia show. Today, I'm really excited because I have a guest with me, and I have Katie Oman here to talk about self-love. So, a little bit about Katie. She is an author, a psychic, an angel worker, and coach who's based in the UK. She's a single mother of 3 children. She certainly keeps herself busy. Today, she's written 4 books, and her latest one, Self-Love Pledge, which I have here and I will show you, is her most personal one to date. Katie's focus in everything that she does is to help others wherever she can. She wants to empower people to see how amazing they are, and this book is the key to doing just that. So in today's video, we're going to talk about self-love, and it's going to be, just like a kind of a nugget. Like, we're not going to go super deep into it. That is where you want to get the book, which is amazing. I highly recommend it. It's not super big, but it is a wonderful book, and it has some amazing stories in it that I think many of us can really relate to, and help you remember that you're not the only one that has gone through some things. So for those who are new to my channel, my name is Lalantia. I'm a psychic realm channeler and energy healer. And on this channel, I talk about all things spirituality, but I also specialize in working with magical beings. And so a lot of my videos are around unicorns, mermaids, fairies, all of the different magical beings. And I also talk a lot about the lost land. So that's something that I have started doing a lot more on my channel, is talking about Lemuria, Atlantis, and Avalon, and bringing through information, guidance, all of that. But Katie and I have a lot in common in that sense, that we really want to help you be your most authentic self. So Katie writes books about it, and she teaches about it, and she was reading as well. So we do a lot of similar things, but with kind of different energies and different ways of presenting it. So let's go ahead and get started, Katie. I'm so excited that you're here today.
Oh, I'm so excited to do this with you. As soon as you kind of suggested, I was like, yay, this is such a good idea.
I love having guests on because it brings like another element. And I think that, we all have something to offer the world. We all have different ways of teaching. We all carry a different energy. So being able to help people in all of these different ways and help them see different perspectives and ways of looking at things, I think is really powerful.
Definitely.
One thing that has really, we've been friends on Facebook for a little while, and your posts are always so inspirational to me when I read them, and you're so authentic and sharing yourself and sharing your perspective on things, and you don't like carry any sort of judgment. Like, these are things that we go through. This is life. This is part of being human. It is a part of the experience. It's what, we're meant to have these experiences, and they're not all fun. It's all real. It's all real. I really love that about you and how you present yourself. And
Thank you.
In your book, you're welcome. In your book, you do the same thing. You share your stories, of course, more in depth because it is a book, but you share your stories in a way that we can really relate to them and really relate to, the things that you went through. Because, I'm a single mom as well, and I have gone through a lot of the similar things. Our stories are different, but yet similar. Even when our stories are different, they have similarities, and we can kind of understand, especially when it comes to self-love, because we tend to, have so much, we feel so unworthy, and we go through not feeling like we're not good enough. We're not good enough to write a book, or we're not good enough to have a YouTube channel, or, we all go through this. This is just part of life. So what I wanted to bring up first is how do you feel that sharing your stories authentically is an act of self-love?
Because it shows that I am not ashamed of my journey anymore. And I used to have that so much. I used to carry so much guilt and shame and blame towards myself. And it's really hard to be in a place of self-love if you're carrying all this shame and guilt for the journey that you've been on so far, right? Because you realize that, you not forgiving yourself and carrying all that with you, you did the best decisions that you could have done at that time with the knowledge that you had. You are not that person that you once were, and that's okay. That's normal, because we all grow and we learn. That's why we're here. That doesn't mean the decisions you made back then were wrong, they were just right for you in that moment in your life, right? And by carrying shame and guilt towards yourself because of those things, it almost energy timestamps you in that place, right? Because you can't let go of it, you can't remove yourself from it. So how are you supposed to move forward and be happier and healthier and more abundant if you keep looking over your shoulder? You know, if you keep walking forward, looking backwards, at some point you're going to fall over and hurt yourself, right? So we got to let it go. That the things that we have done are important because they've helped make us the people that we are, but at the same time they're gone, and staying in that space and that energy is not helpful or healthy for you at all.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. And this kind of came through. I was reading the book and then I was brushing my teeth, and I was just like, I think it's really important to talk about sharing our story. And I've had this come up with a client recently, and she's like, I don't get it, why there's so much shame around spiritual teachers sharing their stories like on Facebook and sharing who they are, like not just the good things, not just, you know, all of these, I don't know, the big revelations, which is part of it, and it's a part of the stories, but there's no shame in sharing what we have been through, and sharing, you know, that life is not always easy, that we all go through these hard things, even once, you know, we are more on this path of self-love and understanding and being aware and awareness of different we still have difficult things, and we still have things come up that we can see as mistakes, but really it's just a part of our learning process. We're not ever expected to be perfect. That's a part of being human.
Perfection doesn't exist anyway. It's a total myth. And if you strive for perfection, you are basically, what you're doing is that you're in control energy, right? So you're desperately, you know, your self-worth and your self-esteem is not great, and so you try and make up for that by controlling and making things perfect around you. But perfection doesn't exist, because when you reach the level which you have in your head, there'll be something else then for you to fix and be perfect again, right? So you'll never fully let yourself be happy. So you have to realize that perfection isn't something you're going to reach, but you can find a perfect moment that's for you, you know, your own perfect moment. Not perfection that there's no mistakes or there's no like little quirks, but that's what makes life interesting. It's your perfect moment.
Yes, exactly. And I think that we can kind of put some expectations on ourselves because we're looking at others and thinking, you know, we're comparing ourselves. So we all do that, right? That comparison. And that kind of leads to the next thing actually that I want to talk about is that fear of being judged by other people. So in your book, you talk about, there's a few different stories about, you know, other people's reaction to you when you were able to stand more in your power or be able to be more authentic, and how that triggered them. So then it's like we want to keep ourselves smaller because we don't want to trigger people. We want them to like us and all of that. And that is just that is self-betrayal. We're betraying ourselves by not shining our light authentically. And when we shine our light authentically, we're going to attract those that we're actually meant to connect with, that are, you know, in alignment with us. But how do we really let go of that judgment of other people? I know that once we love ourselves more, then we stop noticing, or we're not triggered by people not liking us. But how do we get there?
I mean, you never really stop noticing. I think you stop caring so much is the difference, right? One of the things that kind of got me, because I was always a real people pleaser for so much of my life, and if someone didn't like me, I'd be devastated. I would be like, try anything I could to make them like me, to the point that I stopped being me. You know, I kind of assimilated and chameleoned myself to be like them. But what that does is that well, first of all, it's unlikely that they're going to suddenly like you, right? Because you've changed yourself, because that's inauthentic, and that smells. You can smell that from a mile off, right? And secondly, you don't like yourself because you know in your heart that you're not being authentic, right? So what I realized was, first of all, I don't like everybody I meet. So why do I expect everyone to like me? That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. It just means that I am not for everybody, and that's okay. Because if everybody liked the same things, the world would be dead boring, right? So rather than trying to water myself down to be liked by everybody, you stay true and authentic to who you are, and then the right people, the people who really love you and respect you for who you are, will find you, because they can't find you if you're a watered down version of yourself, right?
Really? Yep.
Okay. The second thing is that people are going to talk about you no matter what you do, right? Because people like to talk and gossip. That's just the way people are. So why don't you give them something really good to talk about? You know, rather than just like, oh, what's Katie doing? Oh, not much. She's so bored. She never goes out. She doesn't do anything. Or Katie's writing another book. Oh my God, she never stops. She's so busy. I would rather have that than, oh, she's so bored. She never does anything.
Yeah.
You know? My thing is to seek, not to kind of show off and kind of, you know, make people feel bad about themselves. That's not my energy. My energy is to inspire people, because they go, she can write 4 books and she's a single parent. Well, I could do that. I could write a book. She's in that position. I'm not in that position, but I've got time. If she can do it, I can do it, you know?
Right. Yep. That's a good point. Yeah, because I think as a writer, I see how, you know, it can be like, well, I'm a single mom and I don't have any time to write, but I mean, obviously you are too, and you're getting books done. And another thing that I thought of is I think that we put a lot of, this is around writing specifically, is your book is not huge. It's still is packed with such great material. You don't have to write a massive book.
No. I could have been really hard on myself and thought, right, it's got to be like twice the length, you know, it's got to be like War and Peace here. We're talking, you know, I'm going to go into every single thing. But if I'd have done that, I would have been filling and waffling, and it wouldn't have been got to the point. And I think sometimes writing a smaller book that's more succinct, it's quality over quantity. You know, you don't have to write 500,000 pages if you can say something eloquently in 200 pages, you know? It's like the kid who's got the colouring pencils and doesn't know when to stop colouring in, you know? If you've got your point and you've made your point, then it's fine, you know what I mean? You don't have to keep going, oh my God, full of space.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I agree 100% with that. And I think that was kind of a reminder for me today. I don't know, it just like hit me. It's like, it's not like my book has to be massive, and it doesn't have to take a really long time to write a book, but I think the point is to make that commitment to showing up to do it, even if it's a little bit every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Kate DiCamillo, I don't know if you know who she is. She's a children's author. I met her a while back, and she said that I don't remember exactly how long she writes every day, but it is a very, very short period of time every day. Like
absolutely
15 minutes or something like that. Like it is a very short period of time that she writes every day.
Absolutely. I guarantee you, people go, oh, if I had a big chunk of time, so I could take a year off, I would write a book. Like it's some kind of excuse, right? We're all in lockdown. You've got loads of time. Are you writing a book? No, because it's not about that. Because almost that period of time becomes then too much pressure, right? Because you feel then like you should. And when you're shooting on yourself, you're not doing anything. Because again, that comes with guilt and shame, right? So literally, I mean, if I write, I set myself, I think, okay, we're going to write at least 100 words today. So if I do my 100 words and that's all I can do, that's fine. I've hit my goal and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? But then tomorrow, if I'm tired or the kids are playing up or I'm not feeling great and I don't do my 100 words, that's okay as well. It's like, it's a process and it's a journey. And being, although you do need goals and you do need something to work to, don't shut on yourself, because the whole writing process, it's not just the book at the end. It's the journey and the process itself that's important. And people forget this about writing. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's not supposed to be like a torture chamber where you kind of someone's standing over you with a stick and hitting you to write your words. It's supposed to be something that you're passionate and enjoyable and it's fun even, you know?
Yeah.
And when you get to the editing process, and then that's just hell on earth, but we all know that, right?
Just get the words out. Just like take that time and get those words out and enjoy typing those words out. You know, when you do that first draft, just like feel the energy of it, the flow of it, the
exactly.
of
You know, sorry to interrupt you, but I read something once, and because I used to, like, even the first draft, I would be really hard on myself, and I would agonize over it, and I was almost trying to edit it as I was writing it. You can't do that, it doesn't work, right? I read a quote and it said, writing a first draft is like getting sand in the bucket, right? You just got to get the sand in the bucket. The editing process is then crafting the sandcastle, but you can't craft the sandcastle if there's no sand in the bucket. Yeah. So it's like, don't worry about structure or grammar or even spelling, just get the words on the page. Then you can do all the moving around stuff, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I love that description of doing it, looking at it that way. Like, it makes so much sense. You need the sand in order to make the sandcastle. That is,
it just takes the pressure off, because otherwise it's too much. Even the concept's too big in your head. Yeah, just get the words down, then you can sort it out afterwards.
Exactly. And that's what I did. So I did Nano in November. So Nanowrimo, National Novel Writing Month, which is all about just getting the words out. And so I did that, and I was like, it's not even in order, it's like all over the place, but that's okay. Like, you go back, you find the pieces, you put them in order, you put it all together then. I think, you know, that commitment and sticking to it is an act of self-love. It's showing yourself that this matters enough to you and to your journey, and a part of your purposes, that you know that this is a part of it. And this is that action that we have to take to get to where we want to be. You want to be a published author, you have to publish the book. You have to write the book to get it published. So it's one step at a time. And
people see J.K. Rowling and go, I want to be her with all her millions and all that. Yeah, well, she didn't start off like that. You know, you have to put the work in, you know, if you want to be on that journey.
Right. And you have to be a writer, to be an author, you have to be committed to it, because it is not easy. And almost all authors are never J.K. Rowling. Like, that is, most authors do not make very much money off of their book. Like, this is just, you have to be passionate about it. You have to deeply believe, and it has to be something really important to you, because you're not rich. You're not
exactly. Exactly. I always say I do it because I can't not do it.
Right.
You know, it's like, if I don't do it, I go, it's almost weirdly a form of therapy to me. And every book that I've written is because I needed to read that book at that time of my life, but I couldn't find anybody else who had written that book. So I wrote it for myself.
I love that. And I actually really resonate with that, because that's how my first book that I started writing was too. It's like, there is not another book that really resonates with me on this topic. And every book since then, you know, it's a lot of my own journey. I haven't found any books that are anything like my own journey, and the things that I feel people need to know they're not alone in. You know, I'm in a group on Facebook that is about lesbians that came out later in life. There's not a lot of content out there for women who realize that they're a lesbian when they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. And this is something that, you know, people, there's a lot of shame. There's so much there. And this is like one of those things that I'm really passionate about, is, you know, really helping people recognize, you know, that sexuality is more fluid than we than we think, I guess. And there's a lot there that I'm really passionate about, obviously.
That's good. I'd rather have people who do have passion and colour in life than someone who's beige, you know? There's nothing worse, really, than a beige sheep. You know, you've got to be passionate about something. Right? It doesn't matter what it is, just be passionate. Find the thing, you know?
Right. Find those things that you're really passionate about. And I'm passionate about a lot of different things. And sometimes I think that maybe there's too many things I'm passionate about. I think it's all a part of, you know, we all have more than one purpose. And when we follow our passion, when we follow our joy, we're making that impact that we're meant to make in the world, however it is. So just like my channel, you know, I talk about all kinds of different things. I talk about oracle and tarot cards. I talk about unicorns and mermaids and fairies and all the different magical beings. And I talk about self-love, writing books, and like, there's so many different things that are really important and to me. And I know that those will impact the people that it's meant to impact.
Oh, absolutely. The other thing I think it's important to say for people, because having done psychic readings now for 10 years, the two main topics that people come up to me with, obviously, is relationships, but also about purpose, right? And people, there's so much pressure on people, I think, now to like find their purpose and be on purpose, and it's almost, I think, making people feel bad who haven't got a clue, like they're failing in some way.
Right.
First of all, your purpose changes and grows as you do, right? So what you're passionate about when you're 18 is unlikely what you're passionate about when you're 40, right? And that's dead normal. Secondly, what I say to people is, rather than worrying about purpose, stay curious, stay open, approach things with that kind of playful curiosity, follow the things that you enjoy, and you will find it. But don't put that pressure on yourself to be like, I have to find my purpose tomorrow or I failed at my life, you know?
Exactly. And I think there's also like this weight of responsibility, because right now, especially, we're hearing all of this, you know, it's so important to rise and to share your truths and to live your purpose. And people are like, well, I know that I have this great purpose, but I don't know what it is. I can feel that I'm supposed to do something. I feel the sense of responsibility, but I don't know what it is. Well, it's like you have to pivot a little bit. What makes you happy?
Yeah.
What brings you joy? What are you passionate about? Go towards that. Let go of that heaviness of responsibility, and recognize that when you're living in joy, you are contributing. Like, you are part of the collective, and that changes the energy. You know, we all want to be more in a lighter energy and not as...
Absolutely. But the things that you're passionate about are not random, right? You're passionate about those things for a reason. That's because you're meant to follow that path. And it may turn out to be like the thing, you know, that's like, this is why you're here and you're going to change the world by following this thing. But it could actually be the connecting dots. If you think of it like a dot-to-dot picture, it could lead you to where you're supposed to be. So just follow your passion. You know, it's never a wasted journey, ever.
Right. I agree with that 100%. And I describe it that way too. It's like a dot to dot. You follow those dots, and it's like a flashlight in a cave, where you see a little ways in front of you. You just got to keep walking, and it reveals more and more as you continue to move forward.
Absolutely. The problem is that you don't realize that until hindsight, right?
Yep.
Right? A really good friend of mine, and I love an analogy as well, that's a real writer thing. And she said, life is like a tapestry, but when you're in it, you're too close. So all you see is the back of the tapestry with the knots and the frays and the tangle. Hindsight lets you turn the tapestry over, take a step back and go, oh, now I see how it's all connected, right?
I love that. That is such a perfect picture of seeing it. Like, I love that a lot, actually. That's a really good one.
Yeah, because if I think of my journey, you know, I was like, as you know, because you've read the book, I was a teacher for a while, and I was a nursery nurse, and I've been an administrator, and I really felt very purposeless. I had no like sail, no compass. I was just drifting along. Now, when I look back, I can see that those jobs have led me to where I am now, because of the transferable skills and the way that I've built my confidence. It's all led me to this point. But I didn't see that at the time. I was like, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right. And I think that a lot of times that happens, especially with people who, you know, they go to college, they get a degree, they put in so much work, and then they're like, I hate doing this. And so you can look at it as a mistake, but it's not really. It's a part of the journey. It's a part of the dot to dot to get you to where you're meant to be. And there's no mistake there. It's all
No.
It's all
absolutely. Yeah, but I don't believe in failure. I hate the word failure. It really makes me quite cross. Because I think it was Oprah says rejection is redirection, right? So failure is not like, you know, the death knell and that's it, the end of life, forget it. It's a teaching thing, right? So it takes you closer to where you're supposed to be. If you see it as a lesson and what worked, what didn't work, what could you have done differently, it helps move you forward to the next thing. The problem is people experience failure and they stop. Then they go, obviously this path is not meant for me. I'm on the wrong journey. Forget it. I'll go do something else. Right. But maybe that's their journey too. I mean, it's all, you know.
Yeah, I think it's just you got to, when you have that connection to yourself, then you know, like, I shouldn't say you know, because sometimes you don't know, like you're kind of guessing, but the more you're connected to yourself and you're feeling into what feels right to you and you follow that, like it'll reveal itself. You just got to keep trusting in that, and trusting
Yeah.
yourself, and trust in the infinite power of the universe, because this came up today in today's reading, actually, is to dream bigger. We limit our dreams by what we think is possible, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's infinite. There's so much more possible than we can
There is a bigger plan for us than we could ever dream for ourselves, right? As someone who loves the tarot, I see the journey as like a mix between the Fool card and the High Priestess, right? Because the Fool goes out on his journey and he's full of enthusiasm. He doesn't really know where the path's taken him, but he goes anyway because he's full of excitement and enthusiasm. But the High Priestess is connecting to your inner self. It's connecting to your truth and your intuition. So when you step forward on your journey, you don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take a step, right? And if you keep listening to within, if you keep listening to your intuition, it will lead you to the next step and then the next step. And you may not see the end result, but that's okay. Just take a step and then take another one and it will show itself.
Yeah, and enjoy yourself along the way instead of thinking the grass is greener on the other side, the grass is greener on the other side, the grass is greener on the other side.
Why don't you just water your own grass? There's a thought.
There you go. We just water the grass where you are.
Hashtag water the grass. We're having that now.
So one thing that I wanted to go over before we end this video is, what is one self-love activity that you would like to share with everyone that, you know, we can all do to really nurture that love within ourselves?
Okay. I mean, I thought about this a lot. Normally I talk about mirror work, but I wanted to give something different today. So when I was going through the breakup of my marriage, I became quite angry and bitter, but not just towards him, also towards myself. And I was telling people that me talking about it was allowing me to process what was going on. But actually, me talking about it, like I say, was keeping me stuck in that energy. And I was just reliving it and I was getting more and more caught up in that feeling, to the point that I ended up with stress-related IBS and ended up in counselling because it really messed my head up. And then a friend of mine gave me this exercise, and I swear to you, it's one of the most powerful things I have ever done in my life. And it is the letter of forgiveness, right? So I sat, it took about 2 hours on my own, no children, they were at school, no phone, I told it just me. And I sat with some paper and a pen, and I wrote a letter to him for an hour. This is a letter that he will never see. It's not for him, right? It doesn't exist anymore, so he couldn't anyway. But I just, everything that has happened in our time together, everything that was in my head, everything that I felt, that I'd been through, I got it out and onto the paper, right? Again, didn't worry about spelling, grammar, handwriting. I just wrote. And like an hour, my hand was like aching at the end of the hour. And then when I finished, I read it aloud. I was quite shocked actually by how angry it was. There were like some swear letters that were about that big on the page. And then I went outside in the garden and I burnt the letter safely to release the energy up. My neighbours gave me some very strange looks over the fence, as you can imagine. And then once the ashes were, it was all burnt, I put them on the soil to again return the energy back to the land. And then I went and had a salt bath, right, to cleanse my energy, and put some meditation music on and just let myself kind of calm and ground. And then I wrote another letter, but this was to myself. And it was a letter of self-love, of how proud I was of myself and what I wanted for my future. And I stuck that one up on my bedroom door, where it still lives to this day. And although, me and my ex are going to have the best relationship, but I do not have the same anger and venom towards him that I did. And my IBS, I swear to you, got better, like 10%, 20%. I don't know. It was remarkable, really, to let that negative energy go from my system. So I really recommend it. Doesn't have to be your ex. It can be anybody who's hurt you. It can even be towards yourself. If you're carrying anger and guilt towards yourself, it's a great way to let it go. Because holding on to energy like that, it's going to be really, really hard to move into self-love. It's not impossible, but it's like trying to push water up a hill with a spoon. You're making your life an awful lot harder, right? So by letting all that pain and shame and fear and guilt, let it all go, what you then do is you make room in your life for the love and the the abundance and all the good stuff to come in. So I really recommend people give it a try.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Actually, I really love that you brought this one up, because this is something that I do, and this is something that I recommend for my clients to do. Writing letters to anybody, you know, your family, like your parents, any, you know, writing letters is one way of really expressing what you're really truly feeling. You don't ever give it to them. You don't want them to see it. It's not really about them. It's about you releasing that energy.
It's swapping pain for your own sense of peace, and you deserve that, you know.
Do exactly. And it is really important to bring in that good energy. So I love that you brought that letter of forgiveness, that, you know, forgiving yourself for all of that, and building that energy of what you are choosing to feel instead of all of that anger and you know,
absolutely. Because it's not, people get a bit confused with forgiveness. It's not about condoning what someone's done to you. It's not saying it was okay for them to hurt you, because it's never okay, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to go and have a cup of tea with them and get them and, you know, be best friends with them. Like I say, it's just getting rid of all that toxicity out of your system, because carrying it around with you is just, it's poisoning you from the inside out, ultimately.
Really, yep.
Mm.
One thing that I suggest to people too is, if you're going through a really hard time, you're kind of in the middle of the hard time, I guess it can kind of relate to anything, is ask yourself, if I'm honest with myself, what do I feel today? Because we tend to push the stuff down. We got to function, right? We got to, you know, go to work or take care of our kids, and I can't deal with that right now. But if you take time every day, especially when you're going through a really hard time, to say, if I'm honest with myself, what do I really feel? It brings things up so that you can look at it, say, okay, I see that, I recognize it, that's okay. It's okay for me to feel this. There's no shame in feeling it. And it helps to just continuously release that energy, continuously allowing it to come up, and you know, looking at it as it sits there, instead of, you know, letting it, you know, sit or pushing it down. Just keep bringing it up, you know, layers.
Which doesn't work. You push it down, it's like bubbles in lemonade. They have to come up and out in somewhere, right? And that's when it's going to affect your physical health at some point, you know. Emotions themselves are not good or bad. It's our interpretation of what we do with them that can mess things up, right?
Yep, exactly.
But, you know, like you said, it's okay to not be okay, okay? Especially with what's going on in the world at the moment. You know, I'm a positive person, but I don't walk around like some smiley cartoon character every day, you know? There are days when I'm frustrated and fed up and sad and angry, and that's okay. But I let it out safely, obviously. Right. I don't push it down, because I know from experience that it's just going to make things worse in the long run.
It does. Yeah. And I know for myself, I've learned, you know, when the more you let yourself see it, the faster you let it go. If you push it down, then it's just going to keep bubbling up and bubbling up and bubbling up. And you're just dealing with it for forever until you decide to face it. But if you're just like, I'm going to face this, I'm going to move through these emotions, I'm going to look at them and deal with what is going on, then you're able to release that energy and make space to move into the new energy that you really want to be in.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about making the space for the good stuff, right?
Right, it is. Yep. That is exactly right. And that kind of leads me to, I was going to share one thing that I like to do and I found to be really powerful for nurturing self-love. So I was in a relationship recently, and when it didn't work out, I said, I just want to be loved and cherished. And I said, I have to love and cherish myself, like really love and cherish myself, like to another level, right? I thought that I loved myself, but you know, relationships, they like to bring up all of the other things. Yeah. They really show us a lot. Relationships are great.
Our biggest teachers, absolutely.
So I started doing this activity where I place one hand on my womb or on your sacral chakra and one on my heart, and I say, I love and cherish myself.
I love that.
And it took me, I had to repeat it and repeat it. And it was probably like the 6th time I said it. All of a sudden, the first time I did it, I just started bawling. Like I hadn't felt anything the first 5 times, nothing, no emotion. And then all of a sudden, this emotion just came up. It was really, really powerful. So now, and it's even more powerful if you do it while looking at yourself in the mirror.
Hence the mirror work, absolutely. Because ultimately we're all just big children, right? And that inner child within us just wants to be loved and feel safe. And so rather than looking to other people to give that to you, to parent you and to validate you, you've got to give it to yourself. You've got to be your own parent and say, you're safe, I love you, I'm here for you, you're amazing. You've got to give that to yourself, it's important.
Exactly. It really is. And if you want somebody to love and cherish you, love and cherish yourself. And we're magnets. The energy that we're in, that's what we're going to attract to us. So I know that I have found it to be really powerful to do that activity and keep that in mind if I'm having a really hard time, or even just not feeling very connected to myself. I do that in front of the mirror. It's like remembering, oh yeah, this is who I am, and bringing myself back.
Absolutely. I just have RuPaul from Drag Race in my head saying, is it, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
That's awesome. I love that. That's amazing. Well, I am so glad that I was able to have you on today and to talk about self-love. I'm going to have all of Katie's links below in the description of this video so you can check her out. You can check out her book, which we will list the links in the UK and in the US so that you can find it easily. I do highly recommend it. It is a fantastic book. And it really does get to me. I think there's a lot of books that I feel like I read forever and I'm just getting like little bits and I have to read a whole bunch before I get to something else. It's like really dings for me. And this was just like, it's easy. The stories really keep you engaged in the book itself because, well, we can relate to the stories ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you understand the self-love part of it, because it's not just the action steps. She shares the experiences that led to those actions and the healing and stuff. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. And
thank you.
Yeah, and I know that for myself, I have actually, and I've looked for a lot of books on self-love, and of course we know Louise Hay is like that go-to for books on that, but I haven't really found another person that really is specifically on self-love. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in other books. Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Have you read that yet?
It's on my Amazon wish list. I must get that book. It's amazing.
It is amazing. I actually got an early copy of it, so I read it last year, and I was just like, this is the book. Like, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. Everybody needs to read this book, but it wasn't out yet, so I had to keep it quiet. And then by the time it came out, I was like, oh yeah, I should probably talk about this book again because it is so good. I was ready to read it. Like, I could read that book over and over and over again because it really spoke to me in a lot of different ways. But I have a similar story to Glennon, so I really connected with it on that level. But so many people, so many moms especially, can really relate to that because it's all about, it's really about breaking free of conditioning and society's conditioning. It's kind of like the basis of it all. So it is amazing. I highly recommend that one as well. But yeah, so we just keep going. We can talk forever, right?
That was the way, but it's good. It's good. I think it's rather than just go, oh yeah, this is my book, and yeah, if you could buy it, that'd be great. It's important because I think it's a universal theme, right? It doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, where you come from, what your beliefs are. I think most people will struggle with this at some point in their life, because we live in a society that conditions you to not love yourself, to tell you that you are too old, too young, too fat, too whatever, or not enough, and that if you buy their products, that somehow that will make you, beautiful and acceptable and stuff. So we all deal with this to some level, and I think it's important to say, just because we're conditioned to think a certain way doesn't mean you have to accept and say there is no other way, because there is, and it takes work and it takes commitment, but ultimately it's going to lead you to a much better headspace than the one that we're kind of forced into,
Yeah, and I think that in the spiritual community there's a lot of talk about self-love, but it's kind of almost like this thing that we can't quite grasp onto. Like, nobody knows how to actually do it. Like, people talk about, oh, you have to love yourself, but they don't talk about how you do that or what that actually means. And I know for myself, when I first awakened, it was like everybody was talking about how you need to love yourself more, and it was like, okay, but I don't understand how to love myself more. And I think that for me, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself that I need to, be able to look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm so beautiful and amazing. And like, it never actually is like that. Like, you really, it's different. And it's not as complex, I think. I think that's kind of the way I want to say it, is that it's not really as complex. It's not that it's easy necessarily, but I think that we put too much pressure on like the self-love, when actually self-love comes to these simple things that we're moving through every day. It's not, loving, I don't know how to explain, I guess, what I'm thinking, but it's not that perfection. Perfection
No,
is
no,
not real.
absolutely. And of course, the problem with, I would say, part of the spiritual community, spirituality is a big part of my life. But I've noticed that a big part of the community will do something that's called either spiritual bypassing or light washing. So it's all about love and light and rainbows and, affirmations. It's all lovely, but they're denying the human side of us, the shadow part of us, by saying like, oh, no, we don't talk about that. No, we don't. Just ignore that bit. Yeah. But to be whole, to be authentic, to be completely you have to accept all of you, with the good bits and the bad bits. You have to love all of it. I know, like, we could talk all night, but just quickly, I used to be an expert on an author's page, and I would do videos once a week, and I was talking about angels and stuff. And I was talking about one week, the power of prayer, and about how, coming together with intention is a very powerful tool. And this one woman in the comments who I didn't know said, I pray your eye gets fixed. And I was so triggered because I have a slight astigmatism in one of my eyes. So one of my eyes is slightly smaller than the other. And it was something that I was highly aware of. And I was like upset, and it made me really angry, and I was crying. And then it suddenly hit me, actually this was a lesson, because I can't talk about self-love and then you love the nice bits of myself that I don't mind sharing. If I'm going to love myself, I have to love all of myself. The wobbly bits, the stretch marks, all of it, because otherwise I'm, again, not being authentic. I'm not showing up, because I'm saying, you can love these bits, but you can't love these because these bits are a bit icky. It's like, you have to have the whole package. It's important.
Yep. I agree. And I read that part of your book last night, actually, and I was like, that really makes sense. And I think that we all have those parts of us that we're really sensitive about, and people do that tends to be the thing that people point out or notice about.
Yeah. And you're like, thanks, I never noticed, cheers.
Exactly. And they might not have, like that lady said, that she's praying for you. She didn't really have bad intentions, but she didn't understand, I guess, that, I don't know, it can be very triggering. And one thing I've noticed, on YouTube, people don't really have filters a lot of times in the comments.
No, bless them. I think being on any kind of platform, people think that they have a right, like somehow that they know you and it's okay. And it's like, no, you don't. You wouldn't say that to my face, would you? So just because you're behind the screen doesn't mean you get to say this stuff,
Exactly. Exactly. And they can be, one thing that I have noticed as I learn to love and accept myself more and more and more, that these comments, I can laugh at them now, but it can be a trigger for me. And last night I was reading through comments and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, this is just hilarious. Yeah. And for some of them, it's like, oh, they're, they have their own truths. We all have our own truths, and it's okay. Like, I don't expect everybody to believe exactly the same way as me. And if they believe differently, it's okay. But because their comment says that they don't believe the same as me, it doesn't mean I'm going to change my mind. It doesn't mean.
No, exactly. And what I would say to people watching this is that if someone's really upsetting you, there's an unfollow and a block button for a reason. Yeah. Don't be afraid to use. I had to block somebody this morning on Instagram. Don't be afraid. You don't have to put up with people's bad behavior. They're there for a reason,
Yeah, and I think the more that we stand in our light, and the more authentic we are, the more we trigger people. So the more people are going to be reacting to us, and that's okay. Yeah. I had one person. This person commented a while ago, but I didn't see the comment until last night. And the comment was simply, did anybody else notice that she's a lesbian? And I'm like, hey, nobody can tell. But like, how do you tell this? Like, really, you can tell?
Like, you have like some kind of light above your head or something. I don't know what's going
on. But it wasn't triggered at all. I just was like, this is kind of funny and maybe kind of awesome. I'm not really sure.
Like, do rainbows follow you around wherever you go? Is that what that is?
Can they do that when I go out into the real world? So, I don't have to like announce it to everybody.
That's crazy.
All the time.
Crazy. Bless you. It's, you know, can I say it from a self-love point of view, it is, because I'm in the UK, it's getting darker here by the second. I really want to go and put the light on. So I know this is kind of weird on the YouTube channel, but hang on a second.
Okay.
See, that's being authentic. I could sit here until it was pitch black and be like, no, it's fine, I'm still here. But now we're being authentic and I'm going to
Yeah. So yeah, and nothing has to be perfect. I think that's the thing is, you know, we look at so many people, yeah, like we can look to other people. I know for me, I watch a lot of other YouTubers and it's like, oh my goodness, like they edit their videos and it's all amazing. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like I don't edit my videos. I don't edit out. Like I wouldn't edit out you going to turn on your light. Like
it's authentic. It's real.
Yeah, this is real. Nothing is perfect. My dog almost started a barking fit and we would have had to just listen to it for a second probably, but stop. So it's all good. But things aren't perfect and that's okay. Like
that's okay. It's life. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to learn and grow. So yep, it's all good.
Exactly. And if life was perfect, we wouldn't learn anything.
That's boring. I wouldn't like it anyway. We'd all get bored. See, people think they want like summer all the time and the beach and it'd be amazing just to lie on the beach and chill. I'm telling you, a couple of weeks of that, you'll be bored out of your brain. You would.
Yep.
You know, we need the challenges. We need the things that are going to push us. And yeah, it's scary. Yeah, if you can feel like, you know, it's overwhelming. But if you're brave, a moment of 5 minutes of bravery can change your life. It really can. And I always say to people, if you could believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy for like 8-9 years of your life with very little proof, you can believe in yourself for 5 minutes, right? That's all it takes.
Yep.
You know?
Well, and I was raised in a family where I was never allowed really to believe in these other things, but I also wasn't, I don't think that I wasn't ever taught to believe in myself either. It was, my family is very religious, so it was like only believe in God, like that's the only thing that kind of thing. But that has been my journey, is finding myself, because I was never allowed to be myself. I was never really allowed to be authentic. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know who I was. And then I got married and I had kids and I was a mom and a wife and that was my whole life. And then it was like, all of a sudden the universe was like, does this really feel good to you? And started to really show me, hey, this is not aligned and I'm miserable and I can't live this way anymore. And I had to make changes. And life, there's a lot of, I find that the roller coaster ride is almost like more extreme on this side of really living authentically, but it has the best highs. Before it was like kind of misery, like a level of misery, like, we had money.
It's called, if I did so much, it goes, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how it was. And so it's like, I get to do amazing things, experience amazing things. And sometimes it's like, oh, hey, I'm the only one that pays the bills around here. So I better like figure out how I'm going to do that. And it's really scary when you're the only one doing it. But those highs and lows, that's what really brings the pleasure to life. You know, like I appreciate things, have gratitude at a whole nother level. And the things in my life are important to me. I don't just have things to have things. The things I have meaning and value to me. Like they bring me joy. And instead of just having things that I think will bring me joy and I'm just buying things because I'm seeking joy in things and they don't really bring joy.
No, we've all done that. You know, that thing where you're bored and you're fed up and you're miserable and so you think, well, I'll go and eat this thing and it'll make me feel better, or I'll buy this thing and it'll make me feel better. But actually there's the hole in your soul, in your heart, that buying things, eating things will only take you so far. You know, you need to go within and say, okay, well, how am I feeling and what is this telling me and what do I need to do about it?
Right. Yep, exactly. There's so much more there. And it's finding that true joy and not just the momentary pleasure of eating an ice cream sandwich or whatever it may be. It's finding
well, they are good. You know, that's not discount ice cream sandwiches.
I had a vegan ice cream bar last night, so I can't say much, but I think that it's important to find those, you know, that the true joys of life and things that really light you up and following that. So, all right, I think that we will wrap this up now. Is there anything else that I need to talk about before we go? I don't think so. Is there anything that you want to add before we sign off?
No, just that, look, if I had my way, this stuff would be taught in schools, and there would be no need for me to write books about happiness and self-love. You know, I was taught to use algebra and trigonometry at school, and I haven't used them since I left school, which is fine. It is what it is. But I think the real core important things of life are things that, you know, it's not just fanciful or people who have time or selfish or vain. These are things that are really, really important. And I wish that kids were kind of guided along that path rather than, you know, having to figure out for themselves when they're older and having difficulty with it. But, you know, hopefully this period that we're all going through, hopefully there'll be some big shifts coming, and maybe, fingers crossed, you know, we will end up with a lot kinder planet overall. I hope so.
Yeah, and that's how I'm working on visualizing it, you know, and it has made us, I know for myself, really assess excuse me, the school system and what is really best for our kids, you know. It's the best. Like my son needs more structure, but my daughter is actually doing better with homeschooling. And so it's like, I would love if there was a school that he could go to and learn, you know, these things, not just, you know, math and reading. Well, reading is pretty important, but you can learn reading at home. Like I can teach him reading. I can't teach him math, but I can teach him reading. But you know, it's really finding the things that are really important to teach them. And, you know, if there's some mix of homeschool and going to school, that would be great. Or a school that was, you know, more aligned with, you know, my beliefs and how.
Yeah, it was a bit more holistic. It wasn't just about, you know, learning to pass exams. It was actually the whole person inside and out.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, maybe that's something we need to work on creating. We'll start a whole system.
It's good to have goals. Let's go for it, right?
So yeah, I agree with that 100%. But yeah, so as I said earlier, the links are all below. You can check them out. You can also find me on Facebook. I also have a Facebook group called Sorceress's Circle. I do moon circles in there sometimes. This month I did a full moon circle in there. I'm going to do a new moon circle coming up this Friday, although by the time this video comes out, it might already be past that. I'm not sure if I'll get it out that fast. But there is, the replay will be up in there, and there's some great content in there as well. So yeah, I would love to have you guys join me in there. And you can find Katie on all of the different platforms as well. So I'll post those links so that you can find her. And I will see you guys on the next video. Thank you again, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And big love to everybody. Stay safe, stay well.
Bye.
Bye.